Hello and welcome to Matrix Live. My guest today is Tulir, bridge architect at Beeper and maintainer of many projects, including the Maubot family of bots and the Mautrix family of bridges that you have probably used if you are using Matrix for a little while. He more recently became a member of the Spec Core team. Congratulations, Tulir. And he's here today to talk about Megabridges. Tulir, welcome to the show. Most bridges today are app services hosted on the server side. There is a Matrix server that might be federated or not, and the bridge are sort of attached to it. Beeper's core mission is to bridge all the messages in a single place, ideally on the user's phone. Can you tell us a bit more about Beeper's historical architecture, how things were deployed at Beeper? I'm thinking here in particular about Beeper Cloud and that weird beast that you call Hungry Serve and all the bridges that come with it.
Yeah, well, I guess first for a bit of really old history, Beeper started with just signups, and we had like this thing called ASMax that would merge app services into one signups app service. So everything just ran on signups. It wasn't that performant to have like thousands of bridges on signups. So a couple of years back, we wrote HungryServe, which is an unfederated Matrix home server. Each user has their own HungryServe, and it just handles the bridge traffic. And it's much faster than signups because it doesn't have to like handle federation at all. It like events is just a table of events. There's no like DAG or state resolution or any of that. So it's much simpler. Sam actually made a presentation about that a couple years back, so if you want more info, you can check those slides out. So that's been the architecture. Well, it still is the architecture. So bridges connect to HungryServe and bridges run the cloud.
Okay, so the bridges are living in the very classic mode, I would say, in Matrix. The bridges are living in Beeper's data center or whatever you rent where the servers run, and they are not running on the client side. But Beeper is trying to get all the bridges to the client. Why is it?
So basically, it's just security and privacy reasons. We have end-to-bridge encryption, which means that the bridge will encrypt messages as they come in from the remote network, like decrypt them and encrypt them with matrix encryption as soon as possible. They will delete the matrix encryption keys after they are done with them, so bridges can't decrypt the old messages at all. But even with all that, you still have to trust Beeper because technically the bridges could be modified to intercept those messages. And in addition to that, the bridges need your credentials for the remote network. And all that just can't be solved on the server side. Like there are some things like SGX and other such technologies that could maybe be used, and we did look into them, but they are complicated, expensive, and in like from a normal user's point of view, they won't really understand how it works. So it's still, we are just saying that this is secure, and Intel might also say it's secure, but like there's no intuitive way to know that it's secure. So to solve that, we are going to move the bridges to the client, so the Beeper servers won't have your credentials at all. The messages won't go through the servers. So it's just, that's obviously secure. Your messages go to your client, and that's it.
Right. There is a longer term objective that the Matrix Foundation has been working on. You have mentioned end-to-bridge encryption. This is because by nature, if you have two different protocols that are not using the same encryption, of course, if you have a bridge between the two, the bridge has to understand the message from one side to transmit it to the other side and the other way around. And this is why the Foundation has been doing some efforts on the DMA to make sure that there could be a protocol that is end-to-end encrypted, and that could be Matrix. That's the various platforms called the gatekeepers need to talk, because that provides you more security and you don't have to rely on bridges at all. Obviously, this is a long-term objective, and Beeper is running today. Maybe I think it's worth pointing out that the threat model for Beeper is particular because you are focusing primarily on individuals and users who have bridges to their Signal or to their Discord, etc., as individual users. But there are some cases where it makes much more sense to get bridges on a server, like for example, if you are bridging a Slack as a company, than it would to have one bridge per user in the client. But okay, it's very cool to see that there is an effort to store everything on the client side, because indeed it's going to be much more secure for this specific threat model. So I've been told about a Megabridge thing, and I've heard about a Mega Hungry thing. What is it, and how does it solve the problem?
Yeah, so to move the bridges to the client, we need to, we can't just use the existing bridges, because the existing bridges are written to talk to a Matrix home server, and the client won't have one. It will still use like Matrix events and kind of look like Matrix rooms, but there won't be a server to talk to. So that means that we need to adjust how the bridges work. And historically, the bridges have been kind of, all the bridges have had a lot of duplicate code. They've had a lot of like Matrix handling code in each bridge duplicated. And that duplication meant that if we wanted to change the bridges to talk to a local client, we'd have to do a lot of work across all the bridges, and that's just way too hard. So instead, we decided to basically rewrite all the bridges using a new framework that I made, which is, I guess it's called Megabridge now. So the idea is that instead of having a lot of duplicated code, we have a framework that handles like most of the general bridging stuff. It like keeps track of mapping matrix rooms to remote rooms and all that kind of stuff. And then the bridges are just network connectors which handle the network specific parts. And also we have matrix connectors which handle connecting to the server or the local client. So with that 3-part approach, we can really reduce the amount of duplicate code and easily connect the same network connectors to either a cloud server or a local client.
Okay, so it looks like high-end engineering. You are going to get a very simple piece of software that can be connected either to the client on your phone or to a Matrix server. That's brilliant.
Yeah. And also on the Mega Hungry side, it's well, first on the Megabridge. The name Megabridge comes from what the things that this modular approach allows, which is that we could run multiple bridges in one process, which was previously not possible. You had like one bridge was one process. It just you can't add more stuff to that. But since now it's all like interface based and modular, you could just run multiple instances of that of those interfaces in one process. So even in the cloud, we could save resources by running bridges for multiple users in one process. And we'll of course do that in the client, because the client will just like have one process running whatever bridges are needed. So then onto Mega Hungry. It's the same idea, which is running multiple users things in one process, but for Hungry Serve, which is our unfederated home server. That's kind of all there is to it, and it's not like the Hungry Serve doesn't use that much resources. It's like 20 megs of RAM at baseline, but even that adds up quickly when you have like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of users, and that's why we are working on Mega Hungry to reduce that usage.
Okay, really cool. I really like to see that how focusing on a specific use case, in this case running things on the client side and making sure that phones that have a single process can run the bridges is going to help save resources even on the server side, something that we really need, I would say, in the Matrix world. In your blog post, so you posted about the Megabridges on your blog. You mentioned a MSC that you wrote, MSC 4144, called Per Message Profile. What problem does it solve, and how does it compare to app services as we know them today?
Yeah, so on the Beeper side, the reason I wrote that is for cloud backup of the local bridges. So the idea is that for example, Signal messages, you get them once and there's no way to get them again. So if you sign into a new device, like on native Signal, you just don't get history. We obviously want better user experience than Signal, so we want the users to have their history. And to solve that, the local bridges are going to encrypt messages and send them to the server. But when we do that, we don't want to leak any metadata at all. We don't even want the sender ID on Signal to leak. So we are going to send all those backup events as the Beeper user. So there'll only be one user in that room. But we still want to have the profile info of the Signal users there. So we're just going to put it inside the encrypted event, and hopefully to allow other Matrix clients to be able to view those rooms sensibly, we made the MSC to standardize that format of putting profile info in the message. And then on the normal CloudBridge side, the MSC could allow simple bridges that more lightweight bridges where you don't need a whole Matrix home server to run a bridge. You could just use the MSC to have a bridge that only has one bot. You need to host a bridge, you could connect it to Matrix to talk with the bot, and then you have a bridge that can still look not ugly on the Matrix side. It would have some downsides, like you wouldn't get the member list, and you couldn't bridge membership actions, like you can't kick users and such. But for if you want to bridge a Telegram group and you don't want to use a service like D2bot, which is often overloaded, you can just host your own bridge. You don't need a home server. It won't have all the features, but it will be good enough. So.
Right, it's a good trade-off between ease of deployment and getting an acceptable user experience, as compared to having a relay bot, which is not exactly great today.
Yeah.
Another downside I can think of is potential impersonation. Is it something that you thought about?
Yeah, that is definitely a concern. So I think it can somewhat be alleviated by having clients render messages using that MSC differently. I think I made the MSC suggest adding some text via original user ID, which is similar to how on Discord you can have webhooks set profiles and they will have that bot label. So it's you can immediately tell it's not the Discord user. So I think something like that should be sufficient.
All right. Okay. So you are working on bridges. You are rewriting nearly all the bridges that you have written in the past. You are working on making sure that the server that you use on Beeper side is resource efficient. You are writing new MSCs. You are part of the spec core team. A little bit have told me that you are even starting work on a client of yours for your personal usage, I believe, for your personal preferences. I don't think it's a Beeper project. Is there anything you don't do? Are you bored, Tulir? Can we add more work for you?
Definitely quite full schedule for me.
Yeah.
And even for that client project, I haven't had that much time to work on it.
All right. Is there anything we forgot to talk about during the Matrix Live?
No, I think that's basically what Megabridges are.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And I see you next week, Matrix Live.